kill on Leona every time, and when they did go on Graves, they waited for Graves to actually jump in, get his steroids off, and so he can't jump away. He has to burn his flash. So just really, really good control by Choppa early game. I felt they did better. They exceeded my expectation, and they actually won the game, which surprised me as well. It's just I felt like V8 messed up a bit of time late game, but they definitely took advantage of that, and they knew when to engage, and that actually makes a big part. Even when you get out comp, if you outplay, you can make a difference too.
But even so, with that, V8 late game, a couple of the champions do fall off a little bit. They didn't have the best damage sustain. Ezreal, one of the safest DPSs in the game, and if he can survive past the Galio ult plus the Leona ult, then they had enough disables that they can just keep Ezreal alive, have that great sustain damage in the back row. Do you think that that's kind of a concern that V8's coming into this next match where they'll have a little more sustained damage output? Yorick definitely has that strong lane control, so I definitely understand that, but or do they just need to win it sooner, use that great early and mid-game advantage?
I felt like it wasn't Choppa's car that won on the team fight. It was more of V8's negligence on grouping up and having an even team fight. All the team fights that you saw that happened at the end, it was mostly Choppa engaging when it's 5v3, Choppa jumping somebody and taking him so low, specifically Mundo, where he can't be a factor in the fight and forcing it into a 5v3 again. So just having that really, really uneven team fights really put Choppa back on the map and allowed them to get the items they needed and put them in the position of advantage. Even that inhib push for the win, immediately before that, Yorick and Galio suicided pretty much for the inhib and tower damage. So, Choppa was able to push in uncontested on the first tower and just do a lot of damage on that second tower. And when Graves tried to defend it as much as he could, Maokai just flashed Twisted Advance in. Tarek went in, trying to stun him, and hit him to about like 300-400 hit point, where Graves was also a non-factor. They have two players reviving, so that was a free inhib, and they actually forced a fight when Graves was healing. So even still, throughout the entire progression of the last 5 to 10 minutes, it was never ever actually a 5v5 fight. And because of that, even if you have a team comp that is stronger, if you don't fight on even grounds, you're not going to be stronger,
Well, we do have the bans coming out, and some pretty common bans. Yorick is banned from that last game. They, Choppa in the car didn't want to go against that strong lane. Did set Nasus behind a little bit, though Nasus, did catch up through that mid-game effectively. Yorick, definitely falls off a little bit, but he definitely provided strong early game control. V8 banning, a couple of strong tank champions. Karthus, I don't know if that's indicative that they want to go that heavy melee again. Karthus definitely counters out to a degree. Having that, strong melee team when you're trying to get low health, and Karthus is just going to have the ult to stop you there. But Janna for Choppa and Dakar, and then Shyvana and Ahri. So a really aggressive mid lane, which is, definitely what I've enjoyed seeing from Takashi X.
Yeah.
He's just fantastic with LeBlanc play, and we've seen some really strong Morgana from him as well.
Yeah, he's definitely a very, very aggressive player. Like him versus a lot of other teams, he actually roams a lot and try to make something happen. What that does for his team is it either gives them a really big lead or actually drops them behind really early. So that's one thing you gotta watch out for with Takashi. You can gain a really, really big advantage playing so aggressive, especially on an aggressive champion, but you can also make it so you fall so far behind that it'll put you at a disadvantage. So especially, I'm a little worried because if you're too aggressive and Maokai catches you, depending on what AP Choppa's gonna run, Ahri might have a bad time. I feel like LeBlanc Maokai can actually handle Ahri with the the gank counter gank. Ryze Maokai should be able to do pretty well against Ahri, just because Ryze, he usually goes eventually gets the Banshee's Veil, which is pretty tanky, and so Ahri won't have the burst to burst him down. With the double root, they're gonna be able to actually kill Ahri, and she's not gonna be able to get the jump off.
And like you said, Ahri needs to get off those aggressive ganks. She is a very mobile champion, but Ezreal and Janna is an extremely safe bottom lane. So, if she can't get that off, then that could be difficult. Though she will have blue buff fairly easily. Shyvana is a very strong jungler, obviously. And, just Shyvana's clearing speed should provide them with, the control that they need, where they don't have the threat of losing blue buff, because that, can always set Ahri behind. But Trieskimo actually looking at Sion, and he's played a lot of Sion even recently. Bringing Sion back a little bit, which is definitely interesting. He has great lane control, lots of burst potential. Obviously, once he has his stun, the teleport will be extremely aggressive. That'll be pretty exciting to see.
Like, one thing about Shyvana that I like specifically in this patch is with the nerf to blue buff, he's definitely not a mana-dependent champion. So, if you think about it this way, if all mana-dependent champions are nerfed indirectly through Ancient Golem buff, any champion that doesn't rely on energy or mana is indirectly buff. So, I think Shyvana is the only one. Shyvana and Mundo are the only one that actually comes to mind that is just completely independent from Ancient Golem buff mana regen. Of course, they get the cooldown, but in terms of Shyvana's jungling, it doesn't really affect it that much.
So for the support for V8, we do see the Nunu pick. Nunu has been a very popular support as of late.
I wouldn't be surprised if they get Cog.
Yeah, I was going to say, would that be a Cog lane? Because Cog Nunu is a very strong lane. They have the tanks up front with Shyvana and Sion, and then they also have that nice burst damage. So Nunu provides them the excellent range where they can pick people off up front.
Nunu's gonna be able to just slow whoever wants to come in. Really, they don't have anybody to kill Cog. What's gonna happen is it's gonna be Nidalee and Maokai jumping on Cog. If Rise is gonna get too close, they're gonna be able to space him out. So I feel like with Nunu slowing down Nidalee and blood boiling Cog, he's gonna be able to back off of Maokai, and they're gonna be able to just lay out a lot of damage. But Nunu works with pretty much any AD too, so not absolutely necessarily it's gonna be Cog, but I feel like there's an inkling in me that it's gonna be Cog because Cog provides a lot of just a lot of range and safe. I wouldn't
just the fact that they don't really have a good means of engaging on Cog, like you said. So I'm kind of curious about the Nidalee pick though, because I believe Igata is pretty well known for his Nidalee. Is that correct?
Specifically Nidalee. He's got hundreds and hundreds of games played on Nidalee. So a lot of times you don't even need a pick to counter pick. You just pick because you're so comfortable, and I think that's the case right here. So actually, they're not picking up Cog. They're picking up
Sivir. Okay. Well, Sivir is also one of those, just kind of stand still. She's going to throw off her DPS. Cog definitely has longer range and more poke and stuff. But if they can have that core nucleus of a team for Sivir to just DPS behind.
I think Sivir is actually a better pick here because with Spell Shield and Cleanse, she's going to be able to Spell Shield the Twisted Advance and back out. And if Rise wants to close the distance, he can cleanse that route immediately after. And really, if Maokai Twisted advances into Sivir, that's what she wants anyways. She can use her Bouncing Blade and attack off Maokai and bounce it to the back and do damage. She's not going to even try and attack the backline. As Sivir, you want to attack the closest target and just continually poke them and back up and poke them and back up. And whenever you can, you get the Bouncing Blades off and just attack all 5 players.
So my big concern for this matchup right now is Sion versus Nidalee top. And I'm curious whether or not if Igata tends to play AP or AD Nidalee, because either way, it doesn't seem like she'll have a very good means of destroying Sion's shield, which means Sion will be able to farm fairly easily. He will be able to push the lane extremely aggressively and then, try roaming. Nidalee can also push, very well. So along with her mobility, she can chase after him some. But how do you expect to see that lane to work out?
I feel like Eski's going to push really hard, so it's going to just basically call Maokai to gank up top a lot. If Nidalee's probably going to go AD, which is probably not as good against Sion just because Sion's got that passive that blocks, like 30 damage, a percentage of the time. And so he's not going to take too much damage from Nidalee throughout the game just because of that and the shield. But if she throws in poke in between the shield's cooldown, which she should be able to do with the movement speed running through the brush and boots, she's going to be able to get some damage off. In terms of clearing it fast enough, pre-6 she's going to be pushed to tower for the most part. Unless Eski feels like the gank pressure from Maokai is too strong, after which she's going to have to play a little bit more passive. So if Eski can get farmed enough where the gank on Maokai is trivial, you're going to see him push against Nidalee all day.
Yeah, it should be a pretty interesting matchup. I'm curious, I haven't seen a lot of Nidalee in a while. Hotshot, of course, was really well known. That was AP Nidalee. I've played against some AD Nidalees. I don't know, to mixed success, but it's kind of, I don't know, her role is kind of weird. It's a very unusual champ in team fights. But I think the next thing that I'm kind of wondering is bot lane. You know, Ezreal is actually a pretty strong champion against Nunu, and one of the big things with Nunu as a support is the fact that his snowball is on such a short cooldown, provides that attack speed debuff, but Ezreal
isn't affected by that.
Yeah, he's not really affected by it because he's not really an attack speed AD champion. He's got his Qs and everything.
Late game, he definitely is an attack speed, but throughout the game, he has the option of just poking independent of attack speed. So he's going to be able to dish out damage regardless. And that snowball isn't going to affect Ezreal as much as any champion that would require to walk to close the distance, because he does have that phase shift to get away initially too. So it's definitely a lot safer. Whenever I see a Nunu, I feel like Corki and Ezreal are just really, really good picks in general. So I think I wasn't sure what was picked first, but you see Nashmi have some success with Ezreal the first game, so I'm not surprised that you picked him again.
Oh, you know what? Actually, I think Ezreal must have been the fourth pick. So yeah, Ezreal was picked in. No, Ezreal was picked early because they had the Ezreal Janna lane. Yeah, so I don't know. It should be a pretty interesting matchup. Ryze is definitely a very strong laner. Ahri has that burst potential before Ryze gets that shield. And one of the nice things about Ahri is she is kind of that aggressive assassin kind of champion like LeBlanc, but Ryze is actually kind of a hard counter to LeBlanc because of the Banshees. But Ahri has a little bit of easier job of poking down that Banshee so that she can still, through the mid game, be somewhat effective against him. But even so, his tankiness will probably prove difficult.
Yeah. Like throughout the game, you're gonna see just if Ryze doesn't get put behind, he's gonna give Ahri a really hard time, especially with the gank pressure from Maokai. That double root is gonna negate, just a lot of kill potential from Ahri. She's got to keep in mind that if she jumps in, she's not gonna be able to jump back out.
So considering the kill potential that there is mid lane and the fact that Ahri really needs to get off to an early start, do you expect that we'll see Maokai pressuring that lane in particular so that they can, like you said, have the double snare?
I feel like Maokai is definitely going to pressure mid a lot. His second option would be pressuring top, because I feel like if Sion's going to be pushing all day, even though Nidalee can't kill him too well, the opportunity is still there to gank him.
Well, here we have it. Game number 2, V8 versus Choppa and Dakar. Choppa and Dakar was able to take game number 1, so we'll see whether or not V8 can respond here. I'm kind of curious. Not a very strong level 1 team from Choppa. I'm wondering whether or not V8 might pursue the blue buff and steal that from Maokai, because that could definitely set him behind early.
I think they definitely want to invade. If you're looking at the general direction of the team, it feels like Nunu is probably just going to ward and group up and try and push, or they're just gonna have Shyvana get their red and then invade to the other side red, or gank top right away. So they have both options.
And this is another thing. That Maokai, he usually starts Wraith, so Wraith's blue is a pretty common path. There's definitely the potential for V8 to come in here aggressively gank at Wraiths. It doesn't seem like they're engaging here. I don't know if they're going to switch change, but I guess they're just going to allow him to jungle normally.
Like the thing with Shyvana versus Maokai, the matchup is like this. If they invade, they can deny Maokai blue, and that hurts his jungle. But Shyvana's a really, really strong jungler anyway, so she doesn't need to invade red. Invade blue. She can just take her own red, and
okay.
Anyway, she can take her own red, and with the red buff, she's gonna be able to invade into blue side at their red, and she's going to be able to stop Maokai from farming for a while, because with the red buff and finding Maokai, she's going to be able to just dish out a lot of damage and is going to be able to push Maokai out. So she can be really, really aggressive that way. Oh, they actually are going to stop it.
So the late invade here, and Choppa and Dakar is definitely not ready for that. They do see Unstoppable X here with the Nidalee trap, but they don't really have a good means of defending. Unstoppable is just going to run right in. We're going to get a stun onto Maokai. Can Takashi X follow it up with a charm?
No, they're not going to kill him.
Not in range.
But that was very, very worth it for them, because one, they stopped blue, and two, they burned flash. So right now, if Maokai gets too close, you get that. Can you check if Ahri has charm?
She does have charm, so
she wants to charm Maokai, actually. Like, the reason why she didn't charm earlier is because she was saving it for Maokai.
Yeah, and actually, so Maokai extremely low because of the late invade on the blue. He had already burned all of his mana on those saplings, so his team is going to need to help him out there. They are going to back out. Didn't really want to pressure that much more. It would set Ari a little bit behind if she's going to sit here. They're actually coming back in, so just completely stopping Maokai here. Unstoppable X is going to be coming in. His exhaust is down. They don't really have a means of killing, but just completely trying to deny this blue.
They're both losing a lot of EXP. Everybody.
Oh, they're going to get Igata,
so
the Charm with the Ignite, able to pick up the first blood, and now this is going to be an easy blue, so a huge payoff for V8.
That was very, very big for V8. I feel like because they have disrupted Choppa so much that they're in such a good position to win this just from that. You know, you look at the gold difference, it's already 4,300 to 34.
Yeah, that's wild how much of a... yeah, I mean, it was a really aggressive move. They definitely put themselves behind a little bit, but, you know, because Choppa had to respond, they were equally behind, and then obviously the kill and the blue buff will pay off huge. And actually, Afromu and Nunu, they went up and took blue buff for Sivir early in the game, so Sivir's going to have some great range harass with that boomerang.
Oh, man. That's going to be a lot of pressure on bottom lane. Because they kept Maokai up top, so there's definitely no pressure from jungle. So what that creates is it creates an opportunity bottom where they can just press, you know, uninterrupted by the jungler. Because they know exactly where the jungler is. They're keeping him at blue buff. So Sivir is just keeping in the back of the line. Maokai's not here. I can just do whatever I need to do. I can be as aggressive as I want. And not only that, Maokai is still level 1. If he comes, he's not going to have his twisted advance. He's not going to have his knockup. And so there's no real pressure or threat of me getting ganked.
And not only, you know, like you said, did they put Maokai behind, not only do they know he's not going to, you know, be able to gank them, but because Nunu, instead of going a heal, which is pretty common on Nunu, he went the CV, so they know they're extremely safe, and he's actually invading here. You know, Ari has a little bit of an advantage, so he knows he's safe. Shyvana and Nunu are going to come up and steal this red buff, and we'll see whether or not, you know, Maokai's just going to walk into this.
Maokai doesn't even know.
Yeah. So that's going to be red buff down. Ari is coming down as well, going to back out. But
Maokai's going to walk in there. He's going to go, oh, where's my red buff? And he's not going to even try, actually. Oh, let's see. Because he doesn't have the energy to kill red, so...
Oh, but Patoy is a little bit caught out of position here. Going to take some damage. The Whirlwind will get him out of there. Can Unstoppable get a nice little chunk? Going to just back off. But again, Mashme just having to spam his Qs in order to farm, particularly under tower, just really far behind Afromu at this point. I mean, he's keeping up in CS, but you know, Afromu definitely in a position of strength. Will be able to start pressuring him some.
Mm-hmm. I wonder, did Shyvana give Ari blue buff when they took it from...
No, I think Shyvana took it.
Oh,
yeah,
Shyvana did take it. It would have been even better if they just gave Ari and just spam it, because, you know, Shyvana doesn't really need blue. But it makes sense, you know, you give Shyvana that blue so she can get the EXP, and it really, giving her that blue resulted in them taking red too, because having her get to level 2 ASAP allowed her to take red.
But then let's consider, you know, we have the really aggressive top lane with Sion. He's going to have his teleport. We have, you know, Shyvana already a huge early advantage. She's actually going to get some nice damage onto Patoy here. And her team needs to back her up, but she's actually just going to go in for it. There's the heal, so one more attack. Nunu is going to get the snowball. Can Afromu pick up the kill? He's actually going to die under tower. There's the ignite. One more hit, so it goes down. And Choppa in the car is definitely turning this around. Can Maokai? He's not going to be able to get the
really risky.
Advance.
I felt like if they're going to dive, they needed to dive all together, because they basically just switched tanks and not applying damage, because when you have one person tank and 2 people dealing, or 3 people dealing damage, it's worth it. You can drop one off and have a different tank, and now 3 still dealing damage. What happened was one tank, one did damage, another tank, one did damage. So if you're thinking in total like damage output, the tower plus easy definitely out damage Sivir single-handedly on to Janna. So it's just, you know.
Wow, Takashi X actually very close to getting this kill, but now he's going to be have to deal with Rise. There's going to have a twisted advance. There's the flash snare and the ignite. So Takashi X going to go down a little bit over aggressive. I'm a little bit surprised there, but I don't know.
That was one more spell to kill him. But like I was saying, you know, like Ari and Takashi in general is this very, very aggressive player. You can either make really big plays or you can just really, really mess things up. And I feel like V8 is really messing things up right now.
And I think the big thing is I was literally just about to say, with the early advantage V8 has, with how strong of a counter jungler Shyvana is, they probably could have sat back and, you know, just stolen all of the buffs. Just every time blue spawns, you know, go up there, don't allow Choppa to get it, take that early advantage and be really aggressive with counter jungling. But instead, they've, you know, diving bot, they lost a kill there. Diving Maokai in the jungle, lost a kill there. Trying to press that advantage. I mean, is it worth it to be aggressive still, or do you think they could have sat back and counter jungled a little bit?
They could have been aggressive still. You know, it's all about timed aggression and just timing in general is everything. They could have killed Janna had Sivir and Nunu and Shyvana dived at the same time. That way, they can split the damage. If Sivir is about to die, they can drop the aggro onto Shyvana, and they can just switch off on the tank. Like, what ideally would have happened is Shyvana would have dived, taken the first 2 tower hits, backed out, and you know it would have given Sivir time to hit Janna and pick up the kill and back out and take an additional 2 hits. Like, neither of them would have died.
And Shyvana stealing some race there. That's one of the strengths. You know, she can push the lane fairly effectively. Not as strong as other AP champs like Morgana that can do it really easily. But
she definitely outpushes Ryze though.
Yeah, she can definitely outpush Ryze and then use that to counter jungle a little bit. And she should be able to pick up this blue here.
So if you look at the lane pressure, it was just Sivir pressing so hard on Easy. But after giving up that kill, I don't know. I feel like Easy's gotten back in the game with the advantage now. And so it's going to be very, very hard.
I mean, Aftermoon definitely can't, you know, be as aggressive, but with the shield, should be okay that, you know, they don't have to worry so much about this as a kill lane bot with Ezreal, you know, coming in. She should be able to avoid that kind of damage.
She's definitely going to be able to farm, but she's not nearly as strong as she was compared to Easy. Earlier, she was just easily, you know, out-pressuring Ezreal, and now Ezreal's got more items. I don't know if she can press him as hard anymore and just get an advantage. But definitely, like, V8 is still in the position of advantage, but depending on how they play, if they make a couple more mistakes, it can easily turn around.
But we do see very good ward coverage from both teams. Choppa and Dakar has the wards in their jungle. That's actually a sapling up there, but they have wards, you know, both entrances to the river so that they understand where Ahri is at all times, because there's definitely the threat that Ahri is going to be coming bot with Shyvana, you know, tower dive a little bit. They would have the burst there. They are grouping up to try and steal this red and should have it fairly easily. But Choppa and Dakar is actually trying to engage, and now Maokai is right in the middle of the team. Will go down very quickly, but Unstoppable X going down as well, and Mashmi just going to work here. Sivir trying to clean up, but there's the Ignite, and then the Janna shield pushing away Takashi X. So Mashmi is going to be facing off against Takashi. Takashi was low on mana. I was kind of surprised. I thought Mashmi could have chased him down, but coming back around with that red buff is going to get one more Q. Takashi X not going to be able to get that, so a huge fight for Choppa. That
should have been a really, really good fight for V8,
yeah.
But you know, just mispositioned everything. They could have easily just killed Maokai, backed up a little bit. They didn't really need to full on engage, and even when they did full on engage, I felt like they could have killed Ezreal too, but since Ezreal did get away, he's able to just poke, jump out, jump back in.
And I mean, Ezreal, yeah, definitely, you know, keeping his distance, using the wall very effectively that fight. I was a little bit surprised by, you know, how much AoE damage there was by Choppa and Dakar. They do have Maokai. Ezreal's ult, you know, got in there, hit a number of them. So there's that advantage. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see once Sion's teleport is back up. You know, they'll start grouping up, I would think, for Dragon. That'll be another 30 seconds and, you know, pressure that some, hopefully get an early, you know, get back that gold advantage there.
Mm-hmm. Like, one thing with that fight was, you know, like, you did see, like, a noticeable, like, amount of mana missing on Ahri. You know, even with the blue buff, she wasn't nearly as, you know, effective because she didn't have the mana to utilize her spell. And also, she did use her orb to help kill that red as soon as possible, so it wasn't up on the team fight. And another factor was, since they were all grouped up completely on top of each other, Ryze can hit R and everything is AoE, and he was able to just burst every single player on that team. And combine that with the Ezreal ult, they just took way, way too much damage right away.
Now, considering how aggressive of a team V8 has right now, do you think it might be worth it for one of them to pick up an Oracles? Because a lot of this game is centered around map control currently. We are seeing some very aggressive warding. It would allow them to maybe get in some aggressive ganks. Would that, be something that maybe Shyvana will pick up? Or is it just too risky right now with, all the fights that they're going to be having?
Definitely, like, from our map hack perspective, right?
Yeah.
If you look at the map, it's only V8 that's
Right.
really warding. I literally see 2 wards from Choppa, so getting an Oracles at this point doesn't really
Well, they
make
had
sense
a
for
few
them.
more that just expired, actually, which is
Mhm.
why they were all grouped up at that red buff.
Yeah.
Because they saw Ari and Shyvana coming down. We actually have Mashmi coming in on Aftermood there. There's the spell shield. But the red buff actually, does it get through the spell shield? I guess I wouldn't think it would, but it looked like it did.
He
for a
got an
second.
auto attack off on
Yeah.
too. Usually when Easy uses Mystic Shot, he throws in an auto attack at the same time.
And Ari is coming down bottom. Ezreal actually jumping in onto Aftermood. Aftermood's just barely going to get out of there, so Takashi X is going to be able to pick up this kill. Just barely. Can he get Muffin Cutie out alive? One more attack will do it. Mashmi trying to get some kills, almost picking up a kill on Aftermood down bot, but a successful gank, almost turning against them. What do you think, I don't know, we should be expecting to see from both of these teams coming into this mid-game? V8 definitely has that extremely aggressive team, wants to, pick up some kills, continue their advantage, and Choppa effectively countering that mostly. I mean, what should we see?
Normally, going to mid-game, I'd say V8 is really, really strong, but given that Shyvana is actually very, very behind on her farm, and he's not really effective as a tank right now, because she's going to need that farm in. She does have to kill 64 creeps, but relatively, I feel like she's not tanky enough. Without any HP, even with that resist, I feel like she's not going to have enough.
Oh, but this is a terrible setup for Choppa and Dakar, because not only did they have 3 people coming after this dragon, we have the teleport in from Sion. There's the Shyvana dragon chasing down Ryze there. He's very close to going down. They are getting some nice damage onto Patoy and Maokai there. And all of them are kind of grouped up. Mashmi is going to get some good damage. We have the flash in from Triesmo,
they
able to
need
pick
that
that up.
really bad.
And I don't know if they're going to dive this now or they're just too concerned with Mashmi's damage output. Takashi X could get a charm. There it goes, and Mashmi is definitely going to go down here. There's the Nunu ultimate, barely picking up the kill. So now a couple of kills, and they're going to be able to take Dragon. Nidalee, in the meantime, going to push aggressively top, but definitely a successful engagement for
That was a
V8.
very good play by V8. What happened is they just hit in that brush. Choppa's expectation is they want this team fight. They want to go get Dragon. They're going to back out and try and get it. So they just basically hit in that brush and waited for a perfect charm to land. When that charm land, Nunu can channel her ult, Sai can follow up with a stun. So Easy was just like full CC for about 3.25 seconds. So, it allowed V8 to pick up an extra kill and pick up Dragon. Given they did lose top, but the kill swing was 3, I think is it 3 kills? No, 2 kills. It was a 2-kill swing
kills.
plus Dragon for a tower, and if you think about it in terms of gold, it definitely turned out positive for V8.
And V8's actually going to push down this bottom tower, so that'll give them a nice little boost to their gold as well. We'll see, whether or not they kind of sit down here or if they start roaming some. Nidalee is going with that AP build, knows that Ryze is going to be getting those blue buffs, so starting off with the Rod of Ages, just finishing that Rod. But I don't know, I'm always kind of concerned about, Nidalee's involvement in fights, and she does have a lot of poke damage, but considering how aggressive we have, for engaging from V8, we've got, Shyvana can jump in, Sion with the stun, Ari with the charm. Is that going to be a concern? I mean, could Sivir just walk up, if they get a little bit stronger, push down some towers, and then force a hard engage that Nidalee just can't deal with?
I feel like V8's going to have a really hard time pushing towers just because they don't have the range to take down tower. They don't have the sustain to hold off on Ryze poke, Nidalee poke, Easy poke. So the only way I feel V8's going to be able to successfully push down towers is if they get a couple of good ganks off or force objectives and get kills that way. But in terms of pushing and getting map position at this point, they just don't have the comp for it. And so, they definitely have a pretty strong team fight out in the middle of nowhere, like in like an open field, say Baron Pit, Dragon Pit. But in terms of like tower standoff, if Choppa's gonna group up and press for a tower 5v5 and V8 does not engage successfully, Choppa's gonna be able to poke down V8 and pull an advantage that way. And same goes for V8 pressing on their tower. They're gonna be able to hang back, push down waves, and poke at the same time and just create an advantage, then engage on V8 after that way too. So right now would be a good opportunity. 4v1 on tower. This would be an opportunity for them to take tower. Had all 5 from Choppa been there, they wouldn't be able to do that so easily.
They're actually probably going to be able to get the second tower as well. Maokai throwing off his ultimate will be able to clear those creeps, but it should be hard for them to engage. We actually have a lot of damage going on to Muffin Cutie from the tower there. In the meantime, Ezreal and Janna are pushing down bottom lane. We'll be able to take that tower. We'll see whether or not they can get him on the next wave. But again, Maokai does have a very short cooldown on his ultimate, so he can burst down those creeps a little bit. I don't know, it's pretty close. I think they'll probably be able to get it at this point, though.
They should be able to get it, because if you look at Rise, he already uses
Oh, wow.
R.
So Unstoppable taking a ton of damage, has to get out of there with the Ignite. Very close to going down. Yes.
Wow.
So Rise and Maokai able to pick up the kill.
What happened is, since since Shyvana did turn on Burnout, when they went into melee range, it burnt out on the champion, and that pulled tower call to help. So had Shyvana not pulled tower call to help, she would have lived. But unfortunately,
what would be the reason for her to turn that on? I mean, it allowed her
to close onto the tower faster, but it doesn't do damage on the tower. So it was just, you half spell, you use it, doesn't cost anything, and she didn't really think about it. But that actually caused her to die.
And Nidalee has been doing a pretty good job holding this top lane. We are starting to get to that point where Nidalee can kind of aggressively split push, still has the mobility to, get down. Rise will have that blue buff, so has that spam ability.
I'm a little worried about V8 this game, like Rise is really well against Ahri. Nunu doesn't really do anything against Ezreal, and Shyvana is just not tanky enough at this point too, so it's going to be very, very hard. I can see this game dragging out for 40, 50 minutes too, unless either team just makes a really big mistake, which creates an opening for pushing, because, if V8 has a stronger open field team fight, they're going to force stuff out in the open. And since Choppa has a really, really good wave clear tower defense, there's going to be a lot of waiting for opportunities to fight just by V8 or push tower. So they can't be as aggressive as they were. Had they been aggressive and successful early game, they'd be able to just press the advantage and end the game early. But since they were unsuccessful and just gave Choppa a lot of slack, is going to pull very, very late, and it's going to be a very, very difficult game in both cases.
Now,
from
I
both
kind
sides.
of always think about this, but what's your opinion on the Realize on Ahri in this situation? Because Realize, it does synergize extremely well with her kit. However, they already have a lot of disables on their team. Do you think it maybe would have been a little bit better for her to go a little bit more burst so that she has the damage to just take people out in these fights, since they want to be aggressive and take these fights in order to be able to push?
I feel like Ahri and this team comp, she doesn't really want to just get in the middle and just keep on doing damage. It's more of I want to go and do damage, back out, go and do damage, back out. With the slow, it's going to allow her to kite better and just not get caught. And so also, they're going to, Ahri is a very, very high priority target, and so people usually like to focus her. So if she dies early, she's not going to be able to do as much as she needs to. And so just sticking in the fight and living longer means she can get that passive up and just get more lifesteal. I think she's going to go Will too. So, with all that lifesteal she's going to have, just surviving long enough is very, very important to her.
But we do have Choppa aggressively pushing down this mid lane. Sion is going to be able to get a push here. He does have his teleport, just came back up. So Sivir taking the blue buff. Sivir, that's one of the strengths of Sivir as well. You were talking about how this game could go late. Sivir can, just stall as long as she wants, just clearing those creep waves. And then the fact that, Nidalee also kind of stalls a little bit. So we'll see. Like you said, I think a lot of it will come down to, the next couple of fights that we see. Sion is actually going to be able to drop this second tower. So even though they lost the dragon, that tower will definitely make up for it. And the map control, if they can get it back, will work with their aggressive team.
Honestly, I felt like that tower for Dragon was pretty much worth it, because it gives them the map control that they need. And taking tower for V8 is actually very, very hard. Hypothetically, if they just ace the team and they don't have inhib tower down, I'd rather take inhib tower than just rush for Baron right away, because you can use the Baron, force another fight. Because at this point, I feel like if you have a stronger team comp, Baron's easier to come by than actually taking tower for V8.
So, with the aggression that we're seeing from V8, coming into this, I mean, it's this mid game. It's actually, getting pretty late. What do you think we'll try and see from V8 in order to pressure fights? I mean, lots of ward coverage in the jungles, moving back and forth between lanes to pick people off, or
What they need to do is they need to have good map coverage, which they do. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, probably like 4 or 5 wards down. Definitely, like every team's is starting to have Baron on the mind, so everything's gonna start revolving around Baron. So, what V8 needs to do is they need to be able to defend Baron, farm, and just Zerg towers as necessary right now because, without having sustain, V8's gonna have a lot of problems.
Yeah, and with Sai on top, he does have the teleport, but we actually have the Twisted Advance onto Ahri, and Mashmi is going to try and take him down really quickly. Ahri is able to get out of there, but Muffin Cutie taking a lot of damage. Ezreal is perfectly fine. Maokai does go down. Shyvana needs to get out of there, though. The Ignite, and then Igata almost taking him down. Aftermood going to chase him down some, but Mashmi is on top of Ahri there, able to pick up that kill, and now Sion in the middle of the team did teleport in, but wasn't ever able to get in on Mashmi, so... Wow, the double kill real quick from Aframu, and now he's chasing down Ezreal here. He will have a speed advantage. Can he get one attack? There it goes. So he's got the red buff. Ezreal doesn't have enough mana for an Arcane Shift.
Oh, Sivir doesn't know that, though. Sivir doesn't know that. Now he has enough now, but at that moment, has she just started chasing and just right-click all the way, she got baited by the Ezreal moving to the wall, expecting him to phase shift, but he actually... I don't think... Can you click on him really quick? Oh, it's too late. I honestly don't think that Easy had the mana to phase shift right
he
there.
He had 50 mana, 90 mana for Arcane Shift, so he wasn't able to do it. He did have the flash up, but still, she could have burned the flash. She didn't really have the team with her anyway, so it would have been hard-pressed to get that kill.
It would have been hard-pressed, but having that flash burn for that next team fight is very important.
But the that was definitely a successful fight. V8 was able to take another tower, and you have been talking about how it will be tough for them. I mean, particularly with Sivir's short range. It's difficult for them to poke down those towers a little bit.
But really, having those kills on Sivir was the worst thing that Choppa can do, because Nunu already is like the whole intention of this game is to buff Sivir and have her kill everybody. Right. That's the whole point of having Nunu, right? And so now, since like the way attack speed, crit, and damage works is it's all multiplicative, and so you give Sivir a lot more farm, everything's gonna multiply, and her damage output for the next fight.
Oh, Sion almost engaging on Mashmi, but is definitely caught out of position here. Wasn't able to get the stun. Mashmi just barely able to get out of there. Sion going down very quickly, but we have the rest of them coming in. Aframood's doing very well in this fight, but the burst from Nidalee able to take him down, and Mashmi did survive. Shyvana is separated from the team, but a huge one fight for Choppa and Dakar. They are a little bit low. I don't know if they'll be able to take Baron. Unstoppable is going to back off, but they will be able to push down this mid tower if they want to. They are actually pinging Baron, though. Actually, never mind. Igata and Mashmi are high enough, so they will be fine. So Shyvana, going to teleport back. So a Baron, I don't know, along with, like you were saying, the strong poke that they have, that regen is just going to allow them to sit outside of towers all day. And because, like you said, Nunu doesn't have that heal, I don't know, that regen is just going to be very difficult for them to deal with.
I felt like if V8 just hung back and just stopped them from burning and just allow Aframu to actually go by and get some mana back, that fight could have gone very, very different. Because if you just look at it, right, they just got tower down mid. They got, I think Aframu picked up 2 or 3 kills in the last team fight, so he was unable to buy it. So with that gold advantage that he wasn't able to capitalize on, he wasn't, he wasn't prepared for that next team fight. Given his ult was up, but he didn't have the item that he could have bought, 1, and 2, he didn't have the mana to just dish out the damage they needed to do, 2.
And I mean, Sion was extremely pressed to get in on Ezreal, and Ezreal is very safe. They have the snares, so both Sion and Shyvana are movement speed dependent. They have to just kind of run up and get you. So those snares, are very defensive. Do you think that they really needed to wait until Sion has his flash up before they can engage these fights so that they can deal with Mashmi?
What they needed to do is they needed to just go back and just prepare and buy. If you know a fight's gonna break out and you're really close to having, say, your flash up, or you needed something to actually be effective for that fight, you need to stall and actually get it.
Oh, Unstoppable's got to get out of here. Is able to get the smite just in time. Maokai not going to go in on him.
That was very good. Did Maokai smite that first, or? No, he didn't.
Maokai didn't.
So that just means that he got that proc on that Wriggles on that Q. Otherwise, there's no way
Yeah, it was a little bit close as far as whether
yeah,
he's going to get it in time.
if he didn't get that last wriggle proc, Maokai would actually been able to chase him off and he wouldn't be able to get it.
And blue buff is now on Nidalee, so she's going to just be chucking those spears for a while. Aphromoo can, defend the tower very easily, clear those creep waves, as long as they don't get poked by these spears. Oh, that one almost chunking Takashi there.
Like
it does hit a minion.
This type of fight is just not good for V8, you know.
We do have
Choppa
some nice...
does have Baron. With that heal from Nilly, because she is AP, whatever poke they do have, they're going to be able to just top off. And if they get hit by 1 or 2 spears, it's going to go really bad really quickly. So I just don't see V8 being able to hold out mid. And this, I feel like they're going to lose in hip here, just because the poke from Choppa is just so immense. With Baron buff, V8 is going to drop too low too quickly.
We do have some nice poke from Mashme onto this tower. He is very safe, positioning himself away from Sion, all the way on the other side. Knows he doesn't want to have that hard engage there.
V8 is doing a pretty good job of playing Frogger though.
Yeah.
They're not getting hit with all the poke, but once those traps build up, it does quite a bit of damage just walking on it.
Oh, and there's the snare onto Tree Eskimo, so he's going to take a little bit of damage. Both him and Aphromoo are, getting kind of low, so it will be tough for them to engage.
It's gonna force them all back right now, and they're gonna lose tower. So the moment anybody goes back, ooh,
wow,
he flashed, but he didn't root anybody.
Oh, but there's a spear right to the face of Takashi X. So
basically,
he's
Takashi losing that much health means that this is a free tower on the next wave, because she's not gonna be able to get back in time.
We did have the speed buff from Ezreal there. They are going to go very aggressively on this tower. Everyone from V8 backing up, so this is going to be a free inhibitor for Choppa with that Baron buff. And now, with the control that they have, because they have such, a poke kind of stall team, they can just, move around the map, push down the other towers just the same, and that's definitely putting V8 at a huge disadvantage here.
At this point, I feel like Choppa's gonna win the game. All they need to do is they just need to get blue buff, get dragon, get towers. They can easily just group S5, ward around on the side so it doesn't allow V8 to get the jump on them. So right now I feel like each of them has over 1,000 gold, and they're going to buy and they're just going to regroup, and they're just going to take everything from V8.
But we do have a Shirelia's on Nunu now, so that will allow them to close the gap a little bit easier. Do you expect we'll see a Quicksilver from Ezreal? Actually, he is starting to build it. Another 500 gold. But I don't know, what would you expect we need to see from V8 in order to win this? I know, do they just need to make a fantastic play, be really aggressive and engage on Ezreal a little bit?
At this point, the moment Nidalee gets blue, they're just going to eat so much poke. So what they need to do is they need the other team to mess up. Basically, that's how I feel about it. If they can catch the other team out of position, they can make a play and win. Otherwise, if they group up and fight 5v5 in front of a tower, they're going to get poked down. Mid creeps is going to push straight to their double towers, and it's just going to pressure all lanes. So all 3 lanes going to eventually push if Choppa just groups up bottom, constantly chuck spears, constantly chuck mystic shot. The tower is going to drop eventually, and mid's going to push in eventually too. So they're going to have pressure from all 3 lanes, and really the moment they split to kill off the creep that's onslaughting, they're going to lose the tower, and it's going to happen for the next tower and then one after that as well.
So do you just think that V8 needs to make, just a really aggressive all-in kind of fight soon? I mean, particularly before Mashme picks up that Quicksilver Sash, or can they sit back, try and hope that Choppa makes a mistake?
Basically, it's all about time aggression. If they can catch somebody out of position right now, if someone on Choppa makes a mistake and falls out of position, then that would allow V8 to, make a big play. But right now,
Oh, Sion very close to Mashme, not able to get in range. We did have the snare from Rise. Yeah, so I don't know, just a nice slow push from Choppa. They are kind of wearing them down. Can just sit in this lane all day.
They definitely can. If they have wards up, they can just chuck towers or chuck spears and take towers. Especially right now when Mashme gets this blue, it's just you have two just huge pokers in the game, and they're gonna be able to fire out shots constantly. So if you look at top's actually pushing really hard too. With inhib down, all creeps actually get stronger. They get an aura buff, and so lane's gonna start pushing naturally. So if they just stay bottom, top is gonna fall naturally.
We do have Ezreal just being really aggressive here, poking down this tower. They are going to get this tower now, and that's going to be another inhibitor. No room for engagement for V8. Ari coming up, trying to see if she can get in on someone. Maokai coming over to Sion, and we have a full engage from V8. They're chasing down Ezreal here. Unstoppable coming into him, but there's the Janus shield, is going to keep him alive. Maokai actually flashing out of there, just barely surviving, and they are able to pick up Ryze. They're chasing down Ezreal here. Ezreal is extremely low. We have the stun from Takashi X. Patoy is going to go down. There is the movement speed, and there's the snowball onto Mashmi, so they can continue chasing. We'll probably be able to pick him up. A stun goes off onto Mashmi, so he's going to go down. So a huge fight for V8 once they finally just committed to it. Able to pick up 3 kills for nothing, but they've already lost, the mid inhibitor. They've lost the tower down at their base. Takashi X and Aframu still chasing to try and see if they can pick off Maokai here. They are going to be transitioning to Baron, but Shyvana and Nunu are extremely low, so they will have to watch out for those Nidalee pokes. I don't know if they can do Baron with Nidalee here, considering how low the two of these guys are. We do have a spear from Aframu onto Aframu. They are getting extremely low. Maokai almost could have gone in on them, but, of course, you don't want to let up that kill, so Nidalee is still chasing. And there's the charm, so Nidalee's going to drop extremely quickly, so another successful kill for V8. But it did stop the Baron, and in the meantime, Sion holding down this mid lane.
What needs to happen was, with the advantage, they needed to not engage. They have a major poke comp. They didn't need to jump on anybody. They needed to just throw out their spears, throw out the Mystic Shot, and just keep on backing out. And Maokai can just, say, root whoever is zerging them. And so I felt like they played that a little bit wrong. Just Shirelia's out. You just snare whoever you can, just keep on backing out. So I felt like...
But one thing that was very nice about that fight was... they did have that Shirelia, so they V8 was able to aggressively attack there, but they finally, kind of ignored Ezreal. They just let Ezreal sit in the back. He does have significant damage output, but not as much as, say a Kog'Maw, who is also not very mobile, where you're like, hey, we need to get this guy down. So V8 was able to win from the outside in, pick up some early kills onto like Maokai and such, and then just chase Ezreal out of the fight. And that's been the big issue, is all these fights they've been chasing down Ezreal, and they can't kill Ezreal because he's just got his team around him. He's got the survivability. So do you think if they, kind of work that way, they can maybe pick up some fights and then come back into this game and, win despite the poke that Choppa has?
V8 is definitely very much back in this game. They have all their inhib back. And after losing that last fight, Choppa just doesn't have the confidence to full-on fight anymore. All they really need to do is they need to get map position, get wards up, and just poke and run, poke and run. If they get a couple of good pokes off, they can chunk V8 easily for, say, a third or half their hit point. And with that advantage, they can start fighting then. What you need to do when you're ahead and having hip down is you need to use a creep, as your advantage. You need to pull people away where they want to take out the creep so it doesn't take your tower, it doesn't take your inhib, and that would create an opportunity where your team has a 5v4 advantage. And Choppa has the type of comp to do that, but they got really antsy and they just engaged.
We do have V actually coming over here for Baron. They don't have any wards, so they want to make sure they're not doing it real quick. They do see it's not being taken, so they will back off here. Mashmi going to get some nice poke on the Trieskmo shield. He'll be fine. I don't know. It should be pretty interesting. We have seen, V8 has done a very effective job of avoiding the Nidalee spears and avoiding Mashmi's Qs a little bit. And, because they have a poke team, they definitely can't, force any fights. They don't want to force Baron because, that's going to put them all in a clump situation where V8 can, potentially pick up another win. And since V8 does have the inhibitor back up, they're in a position where they can be a little bit more aggressive with fights, or a little bit more passive, with fights, knowing that they're not going to just automatically lose by, creep push.
They're basically back in the position that they were at about like the 25-minute mark, where V8 has a stronger team fight position, and Choppa has the better anti-push poke position. So unless either of the team messes up again, it's just gonna drag out for a very long time. It's gonna come to the point where whoever messes up first, the other team's gonna have the raw damage to just go straight down mid and end the game. So You give it another 5 or 10 minutes, it's gonna get to that position because there's no real advantage in terms of gold on either team. Like gold for gold, I feel like V8 is just so much stronger because just the type of champions they have, it utilizes the gold so much better. But in terms of like champion skills, they're still gonna have a really hard time pressing against Choppa.
Ezreal was able to take the dragon there, but I'm kind of curious whether or not. I mean, the big concern is that the base towers for V8 are down. I was kind of wondering whether or not we might see V8 kind of moving around the map if they start pushing mid and then transition, push bot, maybe catch some of Choppa out of position. But I guess the concern there is, because those base towers are down, Choppa can just backdoor really quickly, drop the inhibitor, drop the nexus, while V8's out of position. So what do you expect that we'll start seeing from these two teams, particularly V8, in trying to force fights to their favor?
Basically, since V8 does have naked inhibs, what they need to do is they need to keep lanes push, so it won't allow the creeps to just take inhib for free. So that's why their clump is 5. They want to keep this lane pushed out.
But we have Maokai coming in on Aphromoo and a lot of poke damage, but Aphromoo is going to be perfectly fine. Ezreal right in the middle of the team. Maokai is going to go down. Lots of AoE damage going off into V8 though. So Shyvana very close to going down. There she goes with the snare from Ryze, and they are going to back out of here now. They should be safe enough where they can just get out of there. Ryze actually chasing down Ahri a little bit, but all their flashes are down. They do back out, so this is going to be another inhibitor for Choppa. I'm a little bit surprised that V8 wasn't able to win that fight a little bit quicker, but the big concern is they wanted to take down Maokai, and he was just too tanky at this point, along with the AoE damage reduction.
Maokai is definitely a lot tankier than, say, Shyvana, because one thing is Sivir is 100% attack speed dependent, except for her boomerang, and when you're focusing Maokai with the Randians and there's a Ryze
but
nearby,
there's the stun on Damashmi. He is going to be able to get out of there. Ryze, with him to back him up. So, I'm sorry, what were you saying?
I was going to say, like with Sivir focusing on Maokai with the Randuins and the Frozen Heart not too far away, she wasn't able to kill Maokai fast enough. So, that's like one big thing. Shyvana, also, another thing is she's not really tanky. Maokai is just significantly tankier than she is. So, Maokai was able to tank a lot longer, so in the long run, I felt like that's probably the reason why Choppa won that fight. And like another factor is Choppa was able to get a little bit of poke off. If you look at Takashi's hit point before the fight even started, he was at about like 7%, and a couple other people weren't even full either. So definitely with all that poke, it creates an advantage, and when the advantage is big enough and you feel your team can win, that's when you go. But one bad team fight, and I feel like Aphromoo can actually wipe the floor with him. He's that farm at this point.
Well, that is the big thing with Sivir, is she's, her sustained damage is just so effective. Does have the Last Whisper along with the Phantom Dancer. But I guess the concern is whether or not they can, sustain the fight long enough. Protect those, tanky champions up front. And now a lot of the team damage from Choppa and Dakar is magic damage. We do have a lot of armor for V8, and I recognize that's because they want to be avoiding the damage from Ezreal, but do you think it would be worth it for them to pick up some magic resistance at this point?
I feel like...
Or are they just okay with, just chasing down Ryze, and Nidalee just doesn't have enough sustained damage?
Basically, the only one that really needs MR would be Shyvana, because she's going to be the tank line. If they get this Baron, I feel like it's going to be game. So they're going to either need to smite steal this.
Oh, it's pretty close. I don't know if they're going to get in on time, actually. So we do have Choppa taking down this Baron. Actually, no engage from V8. That's uncontested.
There's just too much pressure from lanes in every direction. You have bottom pushing, top pushing, and just mid and bottom has super creeps, and top has a big wave. So it just wasn't wise for them, unless they can steal Baron. It wasn't wise for them to go on and engage on that fight, because one is an uneven fight. It's gonna take a while for Science to teleport in, and two, well,
they didn't have a teleport because they, the oracles, they were able to clear out the wards on the Baron.
And two, since the wave was too big, if all 5 faced off at Baron, the creeps would have just naturally pushed in and taken the tower at base. So you're trading. All right, we can potentially fight this and win this.
We do have the stun from Sion onto Maokai, a little bit of damage there.
Oh, he's going to heal that all back up
Yeah.
with Baron buff in his passive.
And with Nidalee as well.
All he really needs to do is smack a creep a couple of times and have Nidalee heal him. He's going to be at full hit point.
There's the stun onto Mash Me, but he can time it for the Arcane Shift out of there. Takashi X taking a lot of damage. Aframu chasing down Maokai here. Can they bait out the ultimate? The ultimate is down, so this might be a good situation for them to engage on. They're just going to kind of back off, but in the meantime, we have a huge creep wave push on bot and mid, and Aframu is going to have to back out of there, you know, clear those waves. Nunu is low, so he's going to have to regen in the fountain. So just the slow push working, and there's a Nidalee spear right to Takashi
That's a free
X.
tower. Takashi can't fight this.
Oh, so we haven't engaged from Maokai, and Sion is going down pretty quickly. Ezreal is safe on the other side here. Ari can't even get in the fight. No damage there. Ezreal flashing in on the enemy team. We did have the Sion stun, but this is a huge win for Choppa.
Right there.
This is GG. Congratulations to Choppa in Dakar, winning 2 games against V8. And V8, they were number 1 in our qualifiers. They're one of my favorites coming into IPL 4. To compare them with Dignitas and TSM, they've been around for a long time, have been an extremely aggressive team with their comps, but Choppa, extremely impressive play with that poke team.